Most people would say without hesitation, of course I take ownership of my work.
And they mean it. But there's a difference between completing a task and owning an outcome. And most teams do not realize that they've been doing one while thinking that they're doing the other.
You can have deadlines met, updates sent, your inbox checked every single time, but it feels like everything is still disconnected behind the scenes because ownership stopped at the task and never reached the result.
So today, we are getting into what ownership mindset actually looks like in practice, how teams build it, and why that shift from doing the work to owning the outcome changes everything about how a business moves.
So, welcome everyone to BizNest. Yay! We're back again.
Welcome to
My
another
name is
episode.
Penny.
My
and
name
this
is
one
Francis.
Francis. There you go.
Yes, hi.
Hi. Another episode. And today's topic is all about ownership. Ownership,
Yes, it
big
is.
word, ownership. Ownership. Hindi, this is not like ownership of properties. This is,
Yeah, like you own me.
yeah.
That's a fact.
Not that too. Not that too. But it's ownership when it comes to ownership being a trait, I guess,
Yeah.
of an
And
employee.
a lot of people throw that word around, and I think the topic here is: do you really know what you're saying? But do you really know what you're saying, or just regurgitating yet another corporate slang? Like when you say, "Oh, I'll take ownership of this," uh, you know how that works, and more importantly, how ownership matters from a team perspective, right?
True, true. So when
So, what
when
does
I
it
think
really
about
mean, Penny? What does it
yeah,
really mean?
so when I think about ownership, I distinctly remember in the early days of when we were doing our hiring, I think you and I kind of had this conversation about, do you know the type of person that we like to hire? It's the people who take charge, right? Like we want to find people who will take charge. And when we say take charge, we don't really mean taking charge of just a task. We mean that if there's a setback, this person would proactively look into the setback, figure out what's going wrong, and figure out how to get to the actual result of what
Yeah.
needs to happen, and not just okay. It's the same thing as, like, for example, you do your posts on LinkedIn, but then
Yes.
you never get to the followers that you need. It's to me, it's like that. So it's really owning the result.
Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Francis? What do you think
Just
ownership means?
I'm gonna add to that. Like when you say do this, okay, I do this. It's different from taking the task, but also understanding what that task is supposed to do. And I think there is a lot of I don't know if you know Amelia Bedelia. No.
No, sorry. I couldn't stop my face.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for reference. But she's like this character who takes all of the orders literally. So she goes, oh
TV
my god.
series?
No, it was a comic series, but she's got, for some reason, she's got amazing powers. Like when they say, "Oh, Amelia, wish them luck. Tell them to break a leg," and she would like literally
Break
right,
their
so it
leg?
can go. Yeah, it's a, but it's more like light. Anyway, I just literally went off the rails on this. But when I say because I suppose even in the Filipino context, like
Mm.
when you have the comical yaya, or even in Pugad
Mm-hmm.
Baboy, like when they go um give an order, they either take it literally or take it out of context just because that's what was said and not understanding what they really meant, right? Like, make me a sandwich is literally make me a sandwich. But when you say, uh, can you get the bread and peanut butter, should be understood as maybe make me a sandwich without having to be
Mm-hmm.
told, make me a sandwich, right? And then, in a lot of context, what you said about us looking at the earlier stages is we needed people who can impress our clients enough, because when uh people at the tier one level, which is
Mm-hmm.
where most of our contracts would start, are things when they are tasks, are people who execute tasks, right? They don't take the tasks and analyze it and then say, hey, there's something wrong with the task. They would just, oh, you do, okay, I do. It looks wrong, but I don't care because they said I do, so I do. It's but we were looking for people who are like more than monkey see, monkey do.
True.
And yeah. So like ultimately for me, so now that I'm done finally trying to take on analogies for what ownership feels like for me. I look at ownership and say, um, when you give me a task, and maybe you should always be fair and ask yourself, do I really understand this, what this task is? You always question leadership. Now if you're leadership, maybe question yourself or ask a second opinion, right? Like, here's a task, like, study AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say study AI. Why are we studying AI? In order to do this. So maybe it's not study AI. It's not just study AI, because I could literally just open chat GPT saying what is AI, and then
And that
that
would
would
be
be
it.
it,
Yeah.
right? And that would be it, right? Like, I did the task. But if the point is we need to apply it to ourselves and go, what can we do that AI is doing, that to get ahead of the curve? And maybe that means building an application or finding problems that AI can fix and apply it to either ourselves or the company, right? So there you go. I finally found someone. But so, how
I
did I do?
did. No, I think that you had a different analogies in there, but I think I really got your point on this. Being able to complete a task per se isn't really bad, right?
It's not
The
bad. It's
thing
not
with it's
bad.
not bad. It's maybe you're
It's a
supposed to do
skill.
that task because it's
Yes.
because it's given to you. But I think what we're looking for in ownership is just a step ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
A step ahead of it, because sometimes if you're just doing the task and not really clarifying what the task is for or is about, you
Right.
do miss the bigger picture of how you're actually contributing to the
Yeah.
team, because all you know is, okay, I did my task and that was it. But really
Or,
figuring out,
or
yeah.
oh, sorry. I just wanted to add to that. Like, sometimes you have you might have information, or you are aware of mitigating circumstances that could negate that task, right?
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
like 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 for example, again, I will just be the analogist here. Like, like your amo said, make sampay the clothes.
Hang the clothes to dry. How conny of you. Make some pie the clothes.
Sorry.
But okay, but for our international
it's
audience
a
here, it's
yeah
hang the
so
clothes to dry.
if you were if you were told to hang if you were told to hang the clothes, and you just came from outside and knew that it was raining, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You could choose to say hang the clothes
Yeah.
because you were told to hang the clothes. But, you know th- understanding understanding uh what the task is for, which is for the clothes to dry, means that you
Yeah.
have to tell your mom or your that it's raining, therefore it doesn't make sense to hang the clothes, or maybe should we hang the clothes somewhere else, right? That's probably one other thing, um like in Tagalog, alam mo naman palang yan, ba't di mo sinabi? Kasi sabi niyo
True. I
it's
mean,
it's really the formula of most Filipino comedies, right?
yes, but the other side of it is either to mitigate, right? Or you could have added, right? Like, if a task was
More
given to
information, yeah.
you, but you know what the goal is, maybe you know a better way to do it, right? But
Yep.
then because you're only really looking at the task, or you're only really concerned about the task and not exactly the goal or the result, then you're just gonna do it. And then eventually, sometimes that happens. Like, okay, I did this, but because I didn't clarify what the goal was. I was like, right after the project was completed, in my head, I'm like, we could have done this a lot faster doing it this way, which I
Mm.
knew. But then because I didn't ask for what the goal was, I mean, we still went the long way just to just to get to the result. So I mean, right? Like I
Have you
think that's
ever
really ownership.
have you been that person
In the early days, do you mean like I wouldn't ask what the goal was? In the early days, I was
in the early days, right?
not the Penny that you know now. You know that I ain't that person at all.
Oh
I'm much more like,
yeah.
you and I, we're nosy divas, right? Like we should
Yeah.
probably have a podcast that just says nosy divas because we both of you and I are. So in the early days, I was like in the early in my career, I was like that. I didn't care much, but then eventually you figure out, hey, I do kind of know things, right? Like it also takes a little bit of confidence to say, hey, let me take charge of this,
Yeah.
right?
But that's the point, but that's sometimes the point where I don't think ownership breaks down if it was never formed in the beginning, but
True.
there are several scenarios to where ownership doesn't happen. Like if, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you're working between teams or maybe even cross organizations. Actually, I literally hate cross organizational projects, but um lost my train of thought. But what was I going to say? You said sometimes the problem is lack of empowerment, right?
True.
Sometimes you're put together as a team. You're not always the team, but all teams have a beginning, and sometimes without clear boundaries on who should or who should not. If you're not told that you're free to do whatever, encouraged to to provide input, then you won't. You probably won't unless you are in fact nosy diva or you just can't
Yeah.
help yourself.
I,
So
which kind of reminds me, do you remember, like, I think when we were the support team, and then, of course, we had customer success managers because this was a SaaS startup. So we had customer
yeah.
success managers. And there was this line between, okay, which questions are actually for support and which questions are supposed to be for customer success managers. Like we know that how to's are supposed to be for support, but then of course customer success managers can also answer that. Or there was a question that was answered in a support ticket, but it's more of a strategic question of how to use the software.
Mhm.
But then you can still answer it, right? But then also the customer success manager is supposed to be able to be the one who's going to be on top of that. So how do you do ownership? Like if there was no, and I think we had some trouble like having a delineation between the two. But then like looking back, as long as the support team member has been empowered and trained at least of how to do or how to use the SaaS product strategically, they can still answer that. That can still be a form of ownership right there.
Yeah.
But then if it's like outside of their realm, outside of what they know how to use the software, then it's up to them to actually pass it on to someone else. That's still ownership for me because you're not
Hmm.
just passing it on to pass it on, but you
Yeah.
pass it on because you're handing it off because you want to get the customer or the user to get the right answer. So that's still
Uh,
ownership. Like the other scenario of this is just filing a ticket and that'll be it. Like,
yes.
hey, let me file a ticket for you, and that'll be it. Without, you know, even if the people that I like the most, especially in our agents, is when they say, "Let me file this ticket for you, and let me check back with you." I don't know, few days, and they will.
Yeah. They
That
will.
that I
And
like the most. But yeah, it's also, I mean, even if it's handoffs like that, on cross organizational or cross department, I think this has happened before because we do have projects where it's not just one department that's
mhm.
responsible, right? Like
Yeah.
thinking of an example. Um, I think the two that's mostly closely related would be HR and ops, right?
In line with that, um, cross department, cross org, cross team work, probably would break down in the first 5 minutes if you do, because even though different departments have their own things, but they always have to
Yes.
be unifying ways for you to work together. So
Mm-hmm.
tools, I would say, so where we're defining how ownership needs to happen, now we're talking about within companies, how do tools or
Help.
equipment support ownership? Right? Obviously, in the early days, it was to-do lists, checklists, a whiteboard maybe. There was like there's always how there's always a dedicated whiteboard where you write down
Yeah, true.
the task and then you cross it off. I mean, which is literally the app version of to-do lists. But
Hmm.
as the more organizations grow, definitely there are apps like project management tools
Yeah.
that help support that. And even in support, Zendesk, for example, project management, ClickUp, Monday, for example, not sponsored, but hello. Um,
No,
that
in virtual we do use ClickUp, and I think the
yes,
reason why it's helping us a lot in terms of ownership is because. And it's not just ClickUp who does this, right? Like we've also tried Monday.com. They also have this feature where the task has an assignee,
yeah.
and that assignee is the one responsible for that task. But then, of course, when it comes to tools like these, all of the features are there, but you still have to have some sort of process or rules of engagement. Is that how you would call it? Like, don't put
Mhm.
that everyone as an assignee. It should only be one person rather than putting everyone, and then the lines are again blurred as to
Yeah,
who owns that
because
task.
they can blur. Yeah, they
Yeah.
can blur. The nice thing about tasks is when you know exactly who it's handed off to,
Mhm. Yeah.
why it's your responsibility, and where does it end. Timelines, project timelines. I like how you can turn a project timeline into Gantt charts so you can see
Mm.
dependencies, for example. I usually like that. Like, I can't start my work until you start your work, and then who's the overall in charge.
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, but having said that, tools are meant to help you, but in terms of if you're working as teams,
Hmm.
remember my example earlier is where either ownership breaks down or never is formed, is when uh you put together a team, and then either nobody takes charge or everybody tries to take charge. Sometimes I feel like sometimes I would there are times when everybody taking charge is good, and then there are times when the phrase having too many cooks in the kitchen,
Spoil the
the fun.
broth.
No, that you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially. So I think I want to move on to talking about uh we've discussed how ownership could break down or how
Yeah.
ownership could never be formed, especially when you're putting together a team. But when you are putting together teams, or when you are working with a team, um delegations and roles should be very, very clear. And I think there are situations when things call for certain things, and
Hmm.
there are times when everybody should be able to contribute as much as they can, but there are also times when there can be too many cooks in the kitchen. Like not
Yeah, yeah,
anybody can
true.
lead, especially if you have strong-willed individuals or people with different directions.
Hmm.
Na, see, people with different directions, there's never really the wrong outcome, right? There's only an outcome, and an outcome can only be wrong on hindsight. So um but the problem is when you all try to implement clashing ideas, then that definitely becomes a problem. But what's worse is when nobody wants
Yes.
to take the helm. So, and remember I told you earlier, I hate that, especially when it comes to
To have
cross.
those meetings where I thought you were the one who was going to do this, like in that meeting. I think
Was it
that
me?
has
Was
happened
it you? I thought
before.
that was you. Has happened
Yeah.
multiple times. And you're having a meeting, and the thing that you're meeting about hasn't wasn't done when you're supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
reviewing it, and then you end up, okay, let's review it now, and you just spend more time. But anyway, my yeah, that's exactly that. But like I said, more importantly, what I hate most is, um you know how sometimes when you have integrations and you have different departments working on it, like two products responsible for making an
Mm-hmm.
integration. So let's just use that as an example, that when you're, for example, technical support, right, and then you say, oh, there's a problem with the integration, sometimes it's not really clear which side of the integration is broken. So you go, here's a problem ticket, and then one side goes, have you checked with this team? And it said, oh, okay. You go to the other team, say, it doesn't look like a problem on this side, have you checked with the other team? You know, when it's when you
Oh
now
yeah, it's
start
like the ping
with
pong type
the
of.
ping pong, and then they go, can you tell this team to do that? Or then the other side goes, can you tell this team to do that? Like, you know, you work together to work, you know how you can cut the middleman out by talking to each other, right? But
True,
that's,
true.
yeah, and at that point, it either takes an escalation or very, very upset customer to go, okay, let's see what we can do about this, or they schedule a call, right? That's the point where usually I get um a jit. But and
Annoyed, pissed, or annoyed actually, or
yeah,
disappointed. But
yeah, disappointed.
the
Yeah.
thing on what I will say, so yes, I have experienced that as well. It's like, can we just I just want this problem solved. Why don't you guys
Yes.
just talk to each other,
Why is
right?
it so? Yeah. Why is it so hard to do this?
But the thing with the other thing about like the role clarity and delegation, especially for leaders who are delegating tasks, and want their people to take ownership, right? To have an ownership attitude, like what you said earlier about you know, being a step ahead, not just doing the task, but really getting to the results. The thing is, there are going to be times where you want your people to have ownership, but then when they do cross the line, you kind of balk. So when you do delegate something, you do have to tell them, okay, what's the scope? What's the scope of this? Is so, like, what's the limitation? It's like, for example, you do let your and this has happened to me because where when I was able to approve some expenses way back when I was able to approve some expenses, but then I was also told if it comes to $200, it has to go through me first. Like my boss said, like anything under that, if you think it's worth it, go ahead and approve. But anything above $200, let's go through. Email me, stack me if it's urgent, things like that. Like having that clarity as well. Now, if you're the employee or if you're the assistant for this type of person, and the clarity, there were no clear excuse me, there were no clear like lines, I guess, the scope or limitations, you can go ahead and ask as well.
Well, you remember, she asked me to get skirts from Calvin Klein. Did you say what type of skirts? No, should I ask? You never ask.
But then I think
uh,
that comes with when you already know like the work, I think.
you should. I think the problem about sometimes when you're encouraged to take ownership, but like I said,
Mm-hmm.
never really given the uh the scope and boundaries of, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and this is very unfortunate that sometimes, since when it comes to like EA secretarial work, the relationship is uniquely built, right? So they're not
Mm-hmm.
all the same. Like, you know, some EAs would schedule all the way up to, you know, their wake up schedule, right? Or Pilates or mindfulness schedule. Some EAs would literally just, this is the work, the 9 to 5, and then nothing above beyond the 9 to 5. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
but you know, it when this is in person, secretaries, you pick up dry cleaning, or but others won't even touch anything that's not work related. But but that's just the nature of some of those relationships where ownership is uniquely built and has to be done. So
Mm-hmm.
it becomes very hard to pass it on to the next person. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not
Mm-hmm.
really what we're talking about. We're just talking about different forms. What my biggest pet peeve at this point is when I
Mm-hmm.
hear that's not my job. Which is, there is the right time and place to say this is not my job, or it falls outside my scope, or it's above my pay grade, right? What I will not stop you, or I will not begrudge you when I ask you something and you say, sorry, that's not my job. But I would appreciate, like, even in certain situations like that, when, say, for example, it was a customer who asked, can we upgrade? So obviously, that's not a customer support person's job. And you can't say, that's not our job. And you would not be wrong. However, right? However, you would you would be like taking ownership of your customer's concerns, as that's not our job, that is as a success manager's job, and let me connect you to them, right? And there are multiple, you could just use that analogy and bring it up, because you could go, especially when a project is in its execution stage, and you're in different parts of the execution. Person A will say, like, say for example, you just notice, as soon as the planning stage is through and you're executing, and you notice that there's already a flaw in the system, in the flaw in the execution. Do you continue executing because that's what's expected of you, or go back and say, I think there's something wrong, right? I think there's something wrong with how we're doing this. I mean, neither is wrong, because one says we execute, maybe wait for the results, right? But which one would you actually prefer? Like, do you want to waste all that effort and say, I personally, maybe I don't know, but the type of person that I am, if I notice something is wrong immediately, like it's causing pain pain points, I'd rather highlight it right away rather than wait for feedback, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
that I think that's personally my
Your
my
take
my
on
own
it.
pet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't, even if you tell me something and it's not your job.
Oh, because it's also your personality.
Yeah, that thing, nosy divas. I probably know somebody who could, or at least get you to the right, point you in the right direction, right? But
Mm-hmm.
can you begrudge somebody who says, sorry, that's not within my pay grade? Fine. But sometimes people use it as a crutch. That as soon as, to avoid responsibility, avoid taking responsibility, avoiding ownership, because, but, I just see it as a crutch. Sue me. So, yeah.
Don't, please. Don't sue him. No. I no, I get what you mean. I get that there's I think that there's also a line on when you'd say that. Yes, if it's used like a crutch of I just don't want to do more work, but it's really in your realm of responsibility. You may not be accountable for it, but it's in your realm of responsibility to at least, you know, find out where the answer is so that you can direct that person there. Then yeah, I think that's where it's like, why are you using this words on it? So anyway, as far as for example, for task management, so we've talked about the tools like ClickUp and how that actually helps because there are assignees there. There are also workflows, and I think one of the things that I also really like about ClickUp is that there's also automation. So, for example, in our social media team, so there's a lot of people that are not just social media, but in our content team, right? There's a person who's writing, there's a graphics designer, right? There's someone who's taking care of the SEO or uploading it on the website, a website developer, and most of the time, like that workflow. Right now, what we have with ClickUp is for every single stage of that content, like it does change automatically. Like for example, if I go ahead and or not me actually, but the content specialist goes ahead and what do you call this, approves the social media copy, it automatically assigns it to the graphics designer rather than having to click, hey, this is the graphics designer's job, and having to click it on ClickUp. Click it on ClickUp. Wow. Right? Having to click it manually. Now it's like automatic. But that's, I think, a very, very simple example of automation. There's a lot more use cases that can be used when it comes to making sure that whoever is supposed to be responsible for the task is actually alerted about, hey, this is on your in your court, right? The ball's in your court now. Maybe you should be doing this. And the automation, the workflows, that really really helps in the ownership as well, because at least now, especially for remote teams like ours, right, that you can't just go in and pop in your head, hey, I'm done with this. I sent you an email, like you can go ahead and do your part of the task so that we can finish and we can reach our deadlines or timelines. So that really, I think, is one of the things that I really liked about ClickUp when we used it.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be nice to just exist in one system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the more it takes on, then that you don't have to leave that system, for me the better. Just saying. Because, I mean, some people would prefer the complexity of one system that can do all or a lot
Mm-hmm.
rather than multiple systems working together. Just saying. So anyway,
No.
um,
That's really true, because I mean, you and I know, like, we've built integrations before. Like, we've handled support tickets about integrations before. So every single
yes.
time there's like two apps or two softwares or two apps that you're using to accomplish,
Zapier.
right? Like, right? Like just one main goal. It's there's always going to be, hey, this app changed something in their API and now the entire workflow is broken, right? So I get what you mean about how it's nice to just use one
Mm.
app or one software, so that it's just, if there's any problems, you actually just have to reach out to one support system. That too. But and also having to understand and learn just one system as well is also like because there are going to be teams and there are going to be people in teams where you do have the app, and you all of you do agree that this app is going to help you with your accountability, who's in charge and everything, but not everyone is very techy.
Or not everybody, or sometimes willfully refuses
Yeah, that was, yeah, but
to
then that's
use. I mean,
yeah.
that's a different thing altogether. But you know what I but you know what I do appreciate is when it so this is when you start calling teams like a well-oiled machine, is when you know that it runs smoothly and you can depend on you can depend on your team to work, is because everybody practices some form of ownership and accountability, right? So within yourself, which could also be a problem. Like so this has to be. I'm always trying to balance this out. That when you have somebody who who in terms of ownership goes above and beyond, that can also be a problem when you now become the one go-to person,
Mm, okay.
right? Right? Do you know what I mean? Na when oh uh when you figure something out and you become the one person who's so efficient at doing it, now everybody who has that same problem, like, oh, who can help me with this, it becomes that person, right? That becomes a problem because it now burdens that person
Yeah.
with everybody else's problems. But a well-oiled machine will say, how can we be, oh, can you show us your best practice so everybody can contribute, right? Now, from one person to one team, a team rises to the top when you can see them just literally working to make sure that they lift each other up. They learn from each other. they know that when somebody is out, the team will not break down because some other people can pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Agree.
the Slack messages. The other people can
Okay.
pick up the other people can pick up the slack, or nobody's afraid to take holidays because they're not not a linchpin. What do you call it? That they're
Bottleneck.
not a hinge. Yeah, that the work won't be bottleneck because of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when a team starts working like that, it's just so many benefits because you're not. When things become punitive is because you're put in that position. Like, who wouldn't want a team who says, "Oh, you can take anytime, any breaks that you want. Anytime you can take breaks anytime as long as you finish the work, right?" But the problem is when the work doesn't get finished, now your manager has to sit down and say, "Manage your time, be more productive, yada 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 yada," right? So imagine the situation where instead of of a manager monitoring lates and absences, and then monitoring calls because of because of customer complaints or bad CSAT. So if all those things aren't present, so people are present, quality is there, you can now focus on other things
True.
and and go beyond, like, how can I improve my team, or how can I ask for, look, they're all performing so well, how can I reward them, blah blah blah. But that's how I see um the beauty of ownership done right.
True.
Because
Well
you
said.
are right, yeah, because you are right. The problem is, I think I'm just gonna weigh in on one other thing that you said, that um um where do you draw the line between uh um a team member who takes initiative to the point where, like, you want them to take initiative, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want them to take a contract by themselves and sign it with their own name just because
True.
you were out to lunch. You were out, so ako na pumirma.
Yeah. Or like an example of also is like to go ahead and implement something, but then it isn't aligned with the I don't know, like the branding, or aligned with the goal of how something is supposed to look like. But they did take initiative, or they did take ownership of it. So um I mean, what are your guys' take on this? Would love to know your thoughts. Like, what have you tried to establish ownership within your team?
Hmm.
I mean, I would love to find out what you guys think and what you've tried as well with your teams. Our team, I feel like we're there, but I do well, as much as, like, I would love to hear some suggestions from everyone. So please do comment down below. Let us know, and if you have any questions, or have any questions about this episode, please comment down below
Yeah,
as
I
well.
mean, if you don't agree with what we said, or maybe what do you call ownership in your team, and now that you've heard this conversation,
Hmm.
do you think owners your the ownership that you define, as you define it, is ownership, and it hasn't been does it apply to your team, or do you see a lack of it? Please comment, DM. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today's episode of Business. So throughout this episode, we did talk about, the meaning of ownership. At least for me and Francis, for me it was being able to take charge and being a step ahead of just doing the task. And for Francis, he is on, at least for ownership, is about being clear of what you are responsible for, right? And we've talked about the tools that can help you with that, or can help your team, like ClickUp, Monday.com, these task management tools, as well as what the nuances are within teams when it comes to ownership, like
Mm-hmm.
cross organizational work, cross organizational departments, and everything. So pretty good conversation, Francis. There are some few things that I think is making me like think
Think.
about more. Yeah, think about more. So
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah. So if you guys find value in this episode and you think someone, your friend, also will get value from this episode, please do share it as well.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Wait,
Francis,
yeah, of course. See that? Oh, I feel like I just want to keep going, but unfortunately, that's it for today's episode of Business. But the conversation will not end here.
let's keep the buzz going. Please follow Virtua on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and send us your thoughts and let's talk business.
And remember, you can find Business on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
Until next time, keep hustling, keep innovating, and keep making moves. Thank you so much again for listening. This has been Penny.
This is Francis. This
Thank
has
you so
been
much, and see you in
Business.
the next episode. Bye
Bye.
bye.